Welcome in, everybody. It's the Wednesday edition of Supernatural News. I'm Tim Dennis. I got a little bad news and I got a little good news. I'm going to give you the bad news first, and then I'll give you the good news. That's how things will work this Wednesday. The bad news, unfortunately, is that Beer City Bruiser, if you were tuned into Tuesday's program, will not be here today because of a family emergency. If you would, please keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers. Nothing major. Major for them, but nothing major, but just throw some thoughts and prayers his way to give him some strength in this time of need. We'll put it that way. But the good news is we got another Darkness Radio alum with us on the ride for today. And this one's a good one, folks. I'm going to ask you to search your memory banks real quick, kind of go back into your brain and look not too far. You don't have to go too far. But one of my favorites of the Darkness Radio alum, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome into the Darkness on the Edge of Town, Jessica Freeburg. Hi, Jess.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited to be here chatting with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. You know, before we get into anything today, let's play catch up. What have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. Well, kids and more kids. I feel like that's kind of my life, but not that I've had more kids, mind you. I'm too old for that. But although we did add an exchange student to our house this year, so kind of I had another kid.
Yeah. Where's the exchange student from?
She's from Serbia.
Really?
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's so fun. I kind of tease her a little bit. She's a little bit witchy. She likes to make moon water when there's a full moon, and she's into all this paranormal stuff. I'm actually taking her to the Palmer House this weekend for a ghost hunt.
Really? So, that's exciting. Yep. So she's into the paranormal, huh?
She really thinks it's fun. Yeah. I kind of look at her and I'm like, are we related? Like, you're like my child. She fits right in. So
that is so cool.
It's been fun.
So have you done anything with the moon water then, or you just let her make it in the basement?
Well, we kind of laugh because she's really into it. So she goes out with the full moon and she takes out some fresh water and she sits it out overnight, and we have to bring it in before the sun comes up. That's very important, apparently. And then you're supposed to do something with it, like, I don't know, wash your face, water your plants, but she puts it in her room and forgets about it. And then it gets slime on top. And then I'm like,
ew,
can I throw this away now? It's like a science experiment.
That's kind of a teenagery thing to do, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. There are a lot of things going on in that bedroom that are kind of science experiments, but I just don't go in there.
That's probably a smart thing. Yeah, you don't want to deal with what's in a teenager's room for too long.
No, I'm just like, throw your laundry upstairs, once a week, and anything else I don't need to see, I don't need to hear about. But yeah, so kids have been keeping me busy. I have one in college now, so.
That's right, you do.
It's kind of crazy.
Is that the All-Star that's in college?
He is a football player, yes. He didn't get to play this year because he had an injury. So we had a little self-pity and misery going on for the football season, but he's healed up and he's ready for next year. What
happened? And by the way, it's Landon, right?
Logan.
Yes.
Landon
I'm
is
sorry.
my husband.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Good memory, though.
See, I got him mixed up, but and. By the way, he was kicking ass and taking names when he was in high school. I'm talking like every time you turned on KARE 11, which is a local station here in the Twin Cities, you would see him running up and down the field, like killing defenses throughout the Twin Cities metro area. But what happened with the injury?
So the funny thing is, he got really big his senior year because he was really putting on the pounds to try to get big enough for college football. And it turns out his alignment was kind of off on his body. Kind of the way that he was put together was not quite right. So one side was higher than the other.
Okay.
And we kind of knew about that, but no one had really indicated it would be a long-term problem. Apparently, when he was running, he was only running using his hamstrings, and he wasn't using his quads or the rest of his leg muscles as you're supposed to because of the way his alignment was.
Okay.
And so as he got bigger and bigger, he started to tear his hamstring over and over and over again.
Ooh.
So he ended up with a pretty severe 3rd-degree tear in one of his hamstrings, and that put him out for quite a while, but it's healed up. He's ready to rock now.
Good. And where's he going to school?
He is at MSU Moorhead.
Good. All right. And he's getting good grades?
He is on the dean's list.
Nice.
I'm like, who are you?
Well, he takes after Mom, of course.
Well, that's, the athlete in him. I'm an athlete. You've seen me running fast.
Yep.
At ghost hunts and stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah. You're not supposed to tell people that.
Oh, no. I'm running to the ghost.
That's right. You're running to the activity, not away from the activity. That's where I've seen it before. Of course. And what do you have going on as far as books?
Well, it's kind of crazy. I've had quite a few books come out in the past couple of years. I mean, it's been a little while since I've been on here. Mm-hmm. I had a graphic novel come out called Piper, and that's one of my favorite ones. It's a kind of creepy adaptation of The Legend of the Pied Piper. It has really beautiful illustrations done by an award-winning illustrator. So, and with a graphic novel, I feel like they deserve more of the credit than the actual story itself, because that's what carries it. So that's a cool one, and I'm excited about that.
I would argue with you on that, because I'll tell you, me, myself, and I'm a comic book collector, and if it doesn't have a story, it doesn't carry much weight. There are a lot of talented artists out there, and I'll give them their due, but if it doesn't have a story, it doesn't have legs. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, I have to take a little credit for it, but his art is beautiful, and I feel like I just look at that book and it's just like, it truly is a work of art because of what he's done with it. So I've done a couple more books for kids. I did a book about the Titanic. My editor asked me if I would do a book about Jamestown, and I kind of hesitated at first. I didn't know that Jamestown was really as interesting as it was. And then I started doing a little research, and I learned that they ate each other. There was cannibalism in Jamestown. And I was like, sign me up. I'll totally write this book about Jamestown. So I did that. And then I had another graphic novel come out. It's a little ghost story for kind of the younger kids. I think like grades 3 through 6. So, but it's a timid, kind of sweet ghost story, but it does have kind of a creepy ending to it.
That's awesome. That's completely awesome.
I'm working on another comic book. So I'm really diving into comic books right now. I'm having a lot of fun with the comic book genre writing.
Hey, you got my attention. So if people are interested and want to get a hold of any of the books, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can find the books on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. If you like to actually go into bookstores, you can find them in bookstores too. But I'm kind of an online shopper myself. So barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, or my website. If you go to jessicafreeburg.com, you can find any of the books and things listed there.
Very good. Very good. Well, now that we're caught up, I suppose it's that time to get into supernatural news, Jess. I got to tell you, we'll start off with a movie review. How's that? Because it does tie into our first story this week. And I got to tell you, I was a little excited to see our first movie. I don't know that I was by the end.
Oh, no.
Well, you take your chances, you roll your dice, you take your chances, and you sit through it. And we're a friend. I wish we were friends with one of the actors in the movie. But I'm a fan, and you're a fan of one of the actors in the movie, Halle Berry. Patrick Wilson is in this movie, who, of course, plays, I almost said Ed Gein, Ed Warren in the Conjuring movies, and that's Patrick Wilson. And John Bradley's in it as well. We're talking about Moonfall. And when you see the trailer, it looks very promising. The moon is entering our atmosphere, Jess. And of course, it's going to scrape up on Earth, and we're in all kinds of big trouble, right?
Are they making moon water?
I think that's what did it. Yep. It's all your Serbian exchange students' fault, is what it is. Too much moon water draws the moon closer to Earth, and by gosh, we're all going to die. No, it's not that at all. So the moon has gone out of orbit, and it's coming closer and closer to us, and eventually it's just going to scrape us, and big things happen where, disaster happens, and it first starts with, it always starts with tsunamis, Jess. That's how this thing always happens. Big waves and earthquakes and tidal waves, oh my. And then it gets worse from there, because they start to discover secrets about the moon and how they do so. And I should set it up a little bit here. Halle Berry and Patrick Wilson start out as space shuttle pilots, but this takes place a little bit in the past, in the beginning of the movie. And as they're repairing a satellite up in space, they see this thing launch out from the moon, and it looks like this big techno-organic blob, and it attacks them, and they end up losing their third crewmate. He ends up getting his line severed, and he goes out into space. I'm not spoiling anything for you by any means. So he goes out into space, never to be heard from again, you know. I suppose he found a nice home on a nice farm somewhere out in space. That's what I kept telling myself as I gasped and took a sip of my soda. I had to calm myself somehow. So off he goes. Bye-bye. And then I had to be good about it. You know, I didn't want to be too rude in the middle of all those people. But then the two of them, Halle Berry gets knocked. I should call her Joe. That was her name in the movie, or Jacinda. Joe Fowler. She gets knocked out. And then Brian Harper is Patrick Wilson's character. Brian, he manages to get back into the shuttle, and he has to get them back to Earth. And that's where all this starts. So he gets them back to Earth, but of course, NASA has to cover this up because we don't know of aliens, do we?
No.
No. Mm-mm. So this is where the fun begins. Meanwhile, you've got Casey, who is played by John Bradley, who's figured out, and he's kind of the conspiracy theorist in this whole deal. He's the one who's figuring out through his day job, which is being a janitor at a college, through sneaking into a professor's office. He's figuring out that the moon is getting closer to the Earth, and that the moon isn't quite what it appears to be. And I'll leave it at that.
I'm intrigued. I have to say,
it is intriguing, and it is a good plot, and it sets up very
like the
promising.
premise.
Right. The premise is very promising. Now, this movie was written and directed by Roland Emmerich. Now, when I say that to you, Jess, it may make you cringe a little bit. Roland Emmerich has had some promises. I believe it was Roland Emmerich that wrote and directed, I think it was Independence Day, if I remember right.
Okay, that was a good one.
That was a good one. But I think he also did Independence Day 2.
Okay.
Which,
anytime there's a 2 after it, it's usually going to be a disappointment. I mean, just, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, right. So, there's the promise that we could have a really good one here, or it may be a swing and a miss. Okay, I'll use a baseball analogy here. If this were a relief pitcher coming in the middle innings, he's trying to paint the corners, but he's missing a little. He's letting some batters walk. So I'll put it to you this way. You've got a great cast. You've got a great premise. You've got the skeleton of a great script, but it's kind of like we missed a little bit. And in great special effects. I'll give it that too. But it's almost like halfway through, the cast didn't believe what they were acting.
Interesting. I do have to say, though, listening to you talk about it, although you're talking about it's a disappointment, I still kind of feel like I have to see it so that I can see how did this go off the rails.
Right. And I'm encouraging people to see it because I'll put it to you this way. Much like that pitcher throwing a ball around the plate, okay, you can stand in the batter's box and you can take that pitch and try to hit it for yourself and see if you can put it out of the park. Okay. Or you can just take that pitch and know that it's missed the plate. There are lines in this movie that to me are obvious cheese, and I just go, they're groaners, and you just go, oh God. Right? But somebody else may hear that line and go, oh yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. The theater that I was in, and I was in a full theater in a screening, there was a man two men audibly laughing halfway through the movie.
And it wasn't supposed to be comedy?
No, it was not a comedy. Shoot. No.
Darn it. That is a swing and a miss right there.
Yeah. And I honestly, halfway through, I was sitting there going, you know what? It isn't as bad as Mystery Science Theater 3000 type bad, but there's points where it starts to get to that point with the dialogue. The dialogue could have been much better. I think if Roland Emmerich would have taken and passed this off to a dialogue writer, it would have been better. Or to somebody to touch it up a little bit. So to make a long review even longer, here's the deal. I'm going to give it, and I'm going to be generous with it, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. I'll go right down the middle, and I'll tell you, see it at a matinee.
Fair enough.
Yeah, see it at a matinee. Check it out for yourself. and experience it for yourself. It does have really good special effects. It's got a promising premise, but not anything I don't think you've ever seen before in it.
I'm going to have to check it out. We were actually talking about going to this last weekend, and then we didn't end up doing anything because we have too many children and too many people to run to places and whatnot. But I think we're going to have to go to a matinee, get some popcorn, sit down. I'll let you know what I think. I'll let you know if I give it a 2.5. Maybe I'll give it a 3.
Oh,
I really, really like Halle Berry. She's one of my favorites.
I do too. And of all the performances, I'd give hers probably the best. I think she's the one who probably pulled it off the most. But the rest are a little uninspired.
We're going to have to check it out.
Yeah. Please do, because I honestly, Jess, I'd like to know what you think of it. Because it's one of those movies that, like I said, we're painting the corners here on the plate, but it's whether you're going to take the pitch or not. It'll
probably just make me mad as a writer. I'll be like, somebody got paid for this.
Oh, it's Roland Emmerich who gets paid for this, Jess, and we'll find out from box office receipts in the next couple of weeks whether people wanted to shell out their money for it or not. It really depends on how much people want to get out this next couple of weeks, especially with Valentine's Day coming out, whether they want to take their loved one out to a movie or not and shell out the dough to see this movie.
I mean, if not for anything but the popcorn, just go have some popcorn. People.
That's right. Get out and get some fiber in you, if anything else. Well, speaking of moonfall, there's a story out there that's saying, could the moon ever be pushed from orbit like in Moonfall? I wonder if they spoil what's in the moon in this article. Let's see. The moon has been Earth's close companion for billions of years, and while our view of its shape and size varies somewhat as it orbits our planet, it remains a constant presence in the sky, but that could change, or could that change, it asks, in the 2022 movie Moonfall, which was released on February 4th by Lionsgate. A mysterious force ejects the moon from orbit and propels it on a collision course towards Earth, with a planet-smashing impact looming in just a few weeks. It says, caution, spoilers ahead. Let me read ahead a little bit, because I don't want to put spoilers in here. Let's see. It does mention what the moon's made of, so I'm going to move forward ahead in the article.
It's cheese. Oh, wait.
Oh, you blew it. You blew it. It's delicious molten nacho cheese. And the way that they
go into the moon.
Yep. The way they defeat the moon actually is to take a giant nacho and they stick it in the middle of the moon and they all push at the same time and put it back into orbit. There.
I knew it was cheese. I've always known.
Yep. They that's how they got the moon back into place. That is until Gabriel Iglesias came by and ate the nacho. And then the moon came back for us again and everybody died at the end. The end. Just kidding. It says here, our moon is a solid rocky body surrounded by a very thin layer of gases known as an exosphere, unlike what's in the movie. And the natural satellite formed around the same time Earth did, about 4.5 billion years ago. A widely accepted hypothesis suggests that the moon emerged from rocky debris. That's, by the way, my boxing name, Rocky Debris. After a massive impact between a young Earth and a smaller protoplanet, a hypothetical object called Theia, according to NASA. Another impact hypothesis proposes that both the moon and the Earth formed after the collision of two bodies, each 5 times the size of Mars. The moon is located about 239,000 miles from Earth and has an estimated mass of more than 1.62 times 10 with one of those little eyebrows like the Rock sticking up. 23 pounds. I don't know what it means. I didn't go that far in high school. I was a gym rat.
You're really throwing out the numbers. I feel like you're throwing down some hard math here. Like my brain is crying.
Let's stop with the math and just tell you it's about 1/4 of Earth's size. If Earth were the size of a nickel, the moon would be about the size of a pea. That's easier for me to digest.
Now you're speaking my language.
There you go. Images of the moon show that its surface is pocked with craters of various sizes made by past impacts, but most of those were made billions of years ago when there was a lot more debris zipping through the solar system. said Paul Chodas, who is a manager of the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies. You don't think he wears Depends all the time, do you? You just watching all those near-Earth or near collisions happening all the time. He works at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory at Caltech in Pasadena, California. Most of the planet-forming rocky debris that once filled the solar system is long since dissipated, so the number of impacts has gone way down now, making him a lot less anxious. There's a lot less material to impact the Earth or the Moon, Chodas told Live Science. CNEOS, as it's known, identifies and tracks near-Earth objects such as asteroids and comets to determine if they pose a threat to Earth, the Moon, or our cosmic neighbors. To date, CNEOS is following about 28,000 near-Earth objects. That's right. We're right in the line of 28,000 near-Earth objects. Jess, no need to skip any sleep whatsoever tonight. You're just fine.
Only a little bit terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Those objects that approach Earth within 1.3 astronomical units or 120.9 million miles. So they're not real close, but they're not real far away.
They're close enough.
Close enough, right? Choda says we check for collisions between any planet and asteroid, and we check for collisions on the Moon. In general, asteroid collisions with the Moon are much less likely than collisions with Earth because our planet is a more massive target with stronger gravity. A wayward space rock that looped into our cosmic neighborhood would therefore be pulled toward Earth rather than towards the Moon. Well, it's comforting. Size also matters when scientists are considering the risk posed by a hurtling asteroid. For a near-Earth object to be classified as a threat to Earth, it has to measure at least 460 feet in diameter, according to NASA. And for an asteroid impact to affect the Moon's orbit, the asteroid would have to be at least as big as the Moon itself. He says the Moon is big, so it would have to be an asteroid or a huge object that would have to hit it at high speed. You'd have to hit it with something that's hundreds and hundreds of miles in diameter. So there you go. So, no need for any Ambien tonight before you go to sleep.
I was just going to drink a glass of wine and have that be my sleeping pill.
There you go. But you might need something now that you know that there's 28,000 things flying around that are close enough to hit us. I don't
like the math in that. That's too many things flying around out there.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. I never really thought of it that way. But, there's an atmosphere to burn that stuff up, right?
True.
Yeah.
True.
So, yeah. Another story out there, Jess, says that AI will help find unidentified aerial phenomena evidence. By the way, we still have this deal. I don't know if you know this or not. Phenomena. There's that too. AI will help us find UAP evidence in satellite images of Earth. This, according to a Harvard astronomer. We can now fire all the astronomers. We've got AI to help us.
Well, that's kind of sad.
Well, it is. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What about all that education?
Yeah, who needs it? I mean, I couldn't figure out math in the last story. Why should they? According to Harvard professor and astronomer Avi Loeb, artificial intelligence will see. I can't even pronounce his name. Why we just use artificial intelligence for my job? AI will put. Have you ever heard AI read? By the way,
it's awkward.
It is, isn't it? It is awkward. I should read like AI would read this article. Artificial intelligence will play a significant role in searching for UFOs and UAP. In his article for The Hill, Can We Find UFOs from Above? Professor Loeb, who also leads the Galileo Project, a systematic program for the search of UFOs or UAP, says pictures currently being produced for Earth or by Earth imaging companies like Planet Labs may already contain the much desired extraterrestrial evidence we've been searching for. Planet Labs is already producing enough images daily of the entire Earth, and with a spatial resolution of 12 feet per pixel, writes Loeb. Keep wanting to say Leb or Loeb. I can't. It's Lisa Loeb, right? Loeb.
I just go with Loeb. I like Loeb because I'm a fan.
Yeah, and he would say he talks slow all the time. So I don't know. I'm trying to quote her now. The Galileo project aims to unravel the nature of UAP. Galileo will use Planet Labs data along with AI algorithms to search for UAP from above. The AI algorithms will skim thoroughly through the satellite images and distinguish extraterrestrial equipment from familiar objects like a meteor or airplane or an atmospheric phenomenon. There you go. With the absence of birds, airplanes are fighting or lightning. I don't know where lightning came from fighting, but they're one and the same, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah. Above the Earth, the use of AI and satellite data will review all of these objects with an elevation larger than 50 kilometers and then further analyze them if they appear unusual in nature. That, according to Loeb, algorithms will separate all the unfamiliar objects and extinguish extraterrestrial equipment from terrestrial objects. Because if they don't, AI will get up there and blow them apart. That's just how it goes.
We are safe.
Or are we?
Probably not.
No. We're not, Jess. We just aren't.
Oh, no.
AI is going to get a hold of us and kill us. Okay, I'm done with that bit for now.
You know, there was some movie, and it wasn't The Terminator, but it was some other movie. It was kind of a cheesy one from the 80s, and they had an artificial intelligence maid that went berserk. Short Circuit. Yes, thank you. That's been bothering me for literally years.
Was it Johnny? Was it Johnny number 5?
Yes. Yes, that movie terrified me, though. I've been afraid of my iRobot, like my Roomba. Like, I'm terrified of that thing because I think of that movie and I think of that maid going berserk and killing the family.
Was it Short Circuit? I think we're thinking of the wrong movie. Was it Short Circuit? I'm thinking of the little robot with the little blinker eyes and
no.
Johnny number 5.
Okay. You didn't help me with anything.
No,
you actually made it worse. You've only confused me more. First, you're doing math in the first one. Then you start talking about algorithms, and now you're doing Short Circuit on my Killer Maid movie.
Yeah, no, I was just joking about Short Circuit.
Wow.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Johnny number 5. I think Johnny number 5 was sent to kill us. My paranoia about AI started with Johnny number 5.
Really?
No.
I thought he was
nice. He's evil. He's evil, Jess. Look at him with those little weird little head and always being so helpful. He was going to turn against us the entire time.
You can't trust the ones that look innocent, right?
That's right.
They're the most dangerous of them all.
You got it, sister. So there's a question out there that I'm going to pose to you, Jess. What do you think they do with the International Space Station once they're done with it in 2031?
Oh, man. I don't know. I hope they, dismantle it and bring it back to Earth.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I hope they don't just, explode it into space and let all the pieces go berserk and all over the place.
No, they can't do that. I found out what happens when they do that.
What happens?
Well, I don't know if I can say this on air. I found out from a friend of mine who's how should I say this? Connected.
Ooh.
That you can't blow up a satellite in space because then the junk from the satellite will hit other satellites and damage those satellites and take out the other satellites.
So are they going to make it like a hotel that we can go stay at? That would be fun.
Turn it into an Airbnb.
Why not? I would totally rent that.
You just gave Richard Branson an idea. That's a good idea.
Now, I can hardly get my son to fly on an airplane, so I probably am not going to get him to go to the Space Center family vacation with me, but I could try.
Not a bad idea. You may be onto something there. No, actually, NASA is cold, cruel, and unusual with this deal. They've decided they're going to crash that sumbitch into the Pacific Ocean.
No! What?
Yeah, you can get yourself a real life satellite floaty. Evidently, get yourself a satellite raft by finding it in the Pacific. Yeah.
That's not going to create any sort of tsunamis or like other sort of ocean problems when they crash the space station into the ocean?
I guess not their problem.
Wow.
It'll now become a home for dolphins. If you thought the little plastic six-pack things were bad, you just throw a satellite in the ocean and watch it end up around a dolphin's neck.
Oh, now you're just making me sad.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I don't think that's probably the best idea NASA ever had. NASA intends to keep operating the International Space Station until the end of 2030, after which the ISS would be crashed into a remote part of the Pacific Ocean known as Point Nemo. Oh, they're going to kill Nemo, Jess.
This just keeps getting worse and worse, Tim. I just don't know if I can listen to any more of this.
I'm sorry.
I'm crying into my tea.
Well, don't do that. Launched in 2000, the Space Lab has orbited 227 nautical miles above Earth with more than 200 astronauts. That's how we say it here in Minnesota. It's an astronaut. From 19 different countries, enjoying stints aboard, representing a continuous human presence in space. NASA said that commercially operated space platforms would replace the ISS as a venue for collaboration in scientific research. The private sector is technically and financially capable of developing and operating commercial low Earth orbit destinations with NASA's assistance. In other words, we ain't going to build it no more, so we'll let somebody else do it. We look forward to sharing our lessons learned and operations experience with the private sector to help them develop safe, reliable, and cost-effective destinations in space, said Phil McAllister, Director of Commercial Space at NASA headquarters, in a statement. The report we have delivered to Congress describes in detail our comprehensive plan for ensuring a smooth transition to commercial destinations after retirement of the International Space Station in 2030. So, where is that space graveyard, you may ask? Well, just look over to the Pacific, to your left, everybody. NASA said the plan was for the ISS to fall to Earth ever so gently in an area known as the South Pacific Oceanic Uninhabited Area, otherwise known as Point Nemo. Run, Nemo, run. The report said its budget estimate assumed that the deorbit would happen in January of 2031. If Fred Sanford, bless his soul, was still alive, he might approve that deal.
Yeah, well, maybe. My question here is, though, how do you put it down ever so gently into the ocean when it's hurtling out of the freaking sky?
You don't. Named after the submarine in Jules Verne's novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and also named after that little fishy who's going to get squished, Point Nemo is the point in the ocean that is farthest from land and has been a watery grave for many other spacecraft, Jess. So if you need parts is parts. And they're sitting there in the ocean.
I got some scuba diving to do.
There you go. You probably find an Apollo capsule there. You could probably soon find the International Space Station and probably parts for 72 Cadillac.
Ooh, it reminds me of that movie, The Abyss, where they're under the water.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yep.
Am I saying the right one this time?
No, that's Short Circuit too. And literally Short Circuit 2.
Everything is Short Circuit.
Yeah, the name of the movie was Short Circuit 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's where they went underwater to find parts for Johnny Number 5.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. The area is approximately 3,000 miles off of New Zealand's eastern coast and 2,000 miles north of Antarctica, and it's estimated that spacefaring nations such as the U.S., Russia, Japan, and European countries have sunk more than 263 pieces of space debris there since 1971. Maybe they should call it Debris Island instead of Point Nemo.
What is actually wrong with us that we just turn the ocean into our garbage can?
It's junk reef.
It's crazy.
Yeah. The report said the ISS would perform thrusting maneuvers that would ensure safe atmospheric entry. So they're not going to totally just launch that sucker into the ocean. It'll be thrusted gently into the ocean.
They make it, really fancy and scientific, but we know the truth. That thing's just going to come flying out of the sky and crash in the ocean, and Nemo doesn't stand a chance.
That's right. It's fried fish for dinner for everybody.
I do like some fried fish, though. That does sound kind of good. Now I'm hungry.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you. I mean, we got a little ways to go here. I'm just saying. Forget your doctor, Jess. throw your health plan out the window. It turns out that Uri Gellar says space aliens are coming to cure our diseases.
Well, thank goodness.
I know, right? We got plenty of them going on now.
Maybe they can figure more out than our regular doctors.
I bet they can. Is it time to start listening to Uri Gellar? I can't believe that came out of my mouth. Not believing, although that they may come eventually, but just listening, especially to the many things he's been saying recently about extraterrestrials. He's been talking about them quite a bit recently, and one could cynically observe that the 75-year-old magician and psychic is grasping for 15 more minutes of the kind of fame that he had when he was a regular guest on talk shows and a participant in government studies of psychic. Oh, God, I got to hit this again. Phenomena. There you go. On the other hand, one might say Gellar seems to have finally found his true calling, one he hinted to in 1971 when he said there is a slight possibility that some of my energies, this is his quote, do have extraterrestrial connection. In the past 2 months, he made statements that aliens are already here and preparing to reveal themselves to humanity, and that NASA needs to be prepared for a mass alien invasion. The name of my new album, by the way, Jess, available this fall, by superior beings. However, Uri Gellar seems to have saved his best alien revelation for last, or maybe just next. My dear friends, a baby born today in his or her lifetime, they will meet aliens who will teach us how to eradicate all diseases. This was his grand announcement this past week. Now, that's the kind of ET news you want to hear, especially in these times when humanity could use some help against the pandemic and plenty of other diseases out there. And people in certain countries seem more open to unconventional treatments than those from their doctors or medical experts. It says, and it just said that in the article. It's not me saying it. What could be more unconventional than health advice from space aliens? Especially, I hear, Jess, they're very good at the probes.
Oh, my.
I'm just saying, they're pretty good at getting in there and diagnosing. The life expectancy of people will move to 220 years by and large, according to Uri Gellar. 220 years.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to live that long. That's a long time.
You know, people say that, but I'd take it in a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to hurt. You know, my hips hurt when I walk down the stairs. It's like I wake up and I have a crick in my neck. I throw out my back and I wasn't even doing anything fun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll have ways to make all that pain stop. I did go to the chiropractor today, so maybe the alien chiropractors will be able to work all the kinks out, and we can just keep on partying well into our 200s. That
alien chiropractor would be kind of fun. Speaking of pain, let me get off on a tangent for a second.
All right, let's hear it.
Let me tell you about, you talk about pain, and I'm going to pull up the name of this so I pronounce it correctly, unlike half of this newscast. I was told by a buddy of mine about this tincture, and I started taking it a couple of weeks ago. And I know I've talked to our audience over the past couple of years, and they're well familiar. I'm a chronic pain patient here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I've been on some heavy duty stuff to try and get rid of chronic pain. Practically half my body is destroyed. Well, not more than half of my body, probably 7/8 of my body is destroyed. So my inflammation markers are way, way up there. They've actually been pretty good for what they normally would have been at. To give you an idea, okay, so I'll make it really quick. In 2017, out of a 0 to 8 scale, my inflammation marker was at 175. Okay, pretty high.
Yeah.
In May of last year, my inflammation marker was at a 12.4 out of a 0 to 8 scale. Okay. So my buddy turns me on to this non-narcotic, natural, for lack of a better term, it's a weed that grows out. I know what you're thinking. Weed that grows out in your backyard, huh, Tim? Puff, puff. But it's called lacturnum, I believe. I'm looking for the bottle. I have a picture of the bottle. But you find it at wildlettuce.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he said, well, if you take and again, I'm not getting paid to tell you this, and I'm not receiving any compensation to tell you this. It's just something that he said, well, just give it a try. Give it a try, and if it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, throw the bottle out. It was $30 for a small concentrated bottle of lactiturnum. I think is what it's called. Let me look up his text here, because I don't want to give you the wrong name. So you know what? I still don't have it there. Let's see. So he gives me the name of this, going to wildlettuce.com. And it's got a sepia tone label, and it's a dark brown bottle. I buy the $30 bottle. I take a half teaspoon in the morning when I wake up, half teaspoon at night. And with just 3 doses of it, the doctor takes, because I've been having issues with my foot lately.
Yeah.
Doctor takes my blood because I had an infection in my Charcot foot. And with 3 doses, I got my CRP inflammation number down from 12.4 to 11.5, which is 3 doses. Not bad. Yeah. I mean, that number doesn't tend to fluctuate real quick. So then last Thursday, I was at the doctor. This is a couple weeks later. And I said to him, hey, doc, would you just, because I've been feeling kind of good lately, I'm not going to lie. I said, would you take my blood again? He said, sure. He said, do you really think it's done anything for you? And I said, yeah, I think it has. I said, I hurt a lot less. And he said, okay. So he orders up a lab for both my CRP inflammation and my sedentary rate, sedation rate, whatever it is, in the blood, which that's out of a 0 to 20 scale. Keep that in mind. So, I go take my blood. I get to the parking lot, and as soon as I get to the parking lot, he calls me on the phone. It says, Tim, you're never going to believe this. I said, what? He goes, I just got your results back. I was curious myself. I had to see what you were at. Because he goes, you didn't look as like sluggish or worn out as you normally do.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. And he goes, man, you're normal. And I said, well, what do you mean normal? And he goes, your inflammation rate is normal. You're at a 5.9 out of 8.
Wow, that's incredible, Tim.
And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, and your SED rate is at a 10 out of 0 to 20. You're right smack dab in the middle. I said, seriously? And he said, yeah. Now, I've got real bad problems in my shoulder, and my knee needs to be replaced. My left knee needs to be replaced. And I still get, as far as pain goes, it's probably like a 4 or 5 out of 10. But it's not like it was. It was like a 10 out of 10 constantly.
Wow.
But it works pretty darn good. So, yeah, wildlettuce.com. And you'll see a dark brown bottle with a sepia tone. I don't remember if it's called lactiturnum. I don't remember, but it starts with an L.
Yeah, I've heard that before, and it's incredible to hear those results. I mean, yeah, that's really something. That's quite impressive. And I am feeling kind of like a jerk because I'm sitting here like, you're like, yes, bring on 200 years. And I'm like, no, my knees cracked, my hips hurt. And then you're like, oh, here's some real problems.
But you know, there are a lot of people who listen to the show that are in chronic pain, and I get a lot of people who correspond with me, who ask me, well, how do I get out of chronic pain? And this tincture, you can get the tincture either with an alcohol base or a glycerin base, for those who can't have alcohol. I used it with the alcohol base. You don't have to use it with the alcohol base. It works either way. But I can't explain it. I just can't explain it. It lowers your inflammation. And when you're not swimming in inflammation, you feel a hell of a lot better. Yeah. That's just all there is to it.
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. So, and again, I didn't get paid for this. There's no under the table arrangement with this place. In fact, I I told my buddy I was going to mention them today. And it's just weird that you brought that up, that you brought up the aches and pains and stuff, because I didn't know how I was going to mention it, but you gave me the opportunity. So I thank you for that, Jess.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I could grumble and moan about nothing at all.
That's not true. You know,
people in the world have real problems.
No. You know what? We all have, you know what? I tell people this all the time, because people say, well, I really shouldn't complain when they get a hold of me. I shouldn't complain. You have a bunch of your own stuff going on. And I say, you know what? We all have our own challenges, and I can't tell what kind of pain you're in. You can't tell what kind of pain I'm in, but it would be interesting if we could all feel what kind of pain each other are in. I think we'd all be a lot more empathetic to each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I think we'd all tread more lightly on each other too. You know?
Physical pain, emotional pain, all of this stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. We'd be we all would be a lot more kind to each other. I really do believe that. But yeah, so I don't ever discount anybody's pain. When somebody tells me they're in pain, I don't ever discount anybody's pain. You just can't, because you can't feel what they're feeling. So I'll get off that soapbox. But so Uri Gellar, we'll get back to Uri Gellar here. He's moved away from his conventional psychic predictions, although he did make some for 2022, tricks that other magicians so love to expose, and dire warnings about extraterrestrials, to some good news about the very beings that may have given him the powers that made him famous, although not necessarily believed or beloved. Could this finally be Uri's big moment, they ask? Well, is he finally becoming the ambassador of aliens he may have been chosen for? That's another question they ask. He claims also that medical and parapsychological researcher, is this Andrea Puharich, said this about Gellar after hypnotizing him in 1971. Hypnotized by Puharich, Gellar identified himself as Spectra, a computer aboard a spaceship from a distant galaxy under the control of Hoover, which I believe is a vacuum cleaner. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if you've ever owned a Hoover before, but oh my gosh, they could suck the carpet right out from that little netting. They are wonderful. No, Hoover, he was sent to intervene on Earth, and Puharich was to assist Gellar. I'm glad they have a plan. I mean, most people don't.
They've got it all worked out.
They really do. Gellar's penchant for bending spoons has always gotten in the way of his other interests and talents. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have taken over the galaxy by now. And a case could be...
I was going to take over the world, but I was too busy bending the spoon.
But watch this. Woo! Another one bent. A case could be made that it may have done just that to his benefactors from another galaxy. They might have been intrigued too. Bend the spoon! Woo! Of course, the only way to prove Uri Gellar's revelations about ETs helping cure human disease and extend lifespans into a third century is for the space aliens to show up and do it themselves. So there you go. That's that story right there.
I hear that a lot from my kids, though. I'm like, hey, how come nobody's done the dishes? Mom, I'm too busy bending spoons. I don't have time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, Mom.
It's a legitimate excuse for a lot of things. I was going to go to medical school. I was too busy bending spoons.
That's right. Mom, I can either clean the spoon or I can bend the crap out of it. Which would you like?
I'd like to see you bend it. I got to say, I'm into that.
See? I would take that as an excuse. I can clean it or I can bend it. Well, bend it. I mean, you know, if you've got that power, by gosh, let's make some cash off this thing.
You got to bend it with your mind, though. You can't just, bend it with your hands. That's boring.
Well, that's part of it, though, Jess. See, you gotta move, you put it between your two fingers and you move it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. If you do that, if you do it right at the little, like the little apex of where the spoon becomes the spoon and the handle like narrows into the spoon.
Yeah. So that's the trick, huh?
Yeah. If you shake it right there, it looks like it's beginning to bend.
So it's not really magic. Now this is just sad.
It's an optical illusion. I am shattering all of your expectations today.
Everything I thought I knew.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an old magician's trick. Actually, I learned that.
Now you're going to tell me Santa Claus isn't real. The tooth fairy doesn't come and leave money under my pillow.
Moving on to the next story. Secret military plasma technology may explain some UFOs, Jess. I'm ruining all your expectations today. Sorry, Jess.
I'm sticking my fingers in my ear and I'm going to start ignoring everything you say.
I'm sorry.
This is such a bummer.
I know. I'm sorry. Turns out that plasma is one of the 4 fundamental states of matter. I didn't know that. I knew there was Family Matters. That was a TV show.
I liked that one. It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Did that have that Urkel guy in it?
Did I do that? Yeah. Did you see that skit on Saturday Night Live where Urkel went all adult on the matter?
Oh, no. I wish I had, though. That had to be great.
You gotta Google it. Chris Redd is a genius.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Yep. Just SNL and Urkel.
That'll make up for all the sad things that you've done to me tonight.
You will thank me.
Ruining my dreams of magic. And
Yep.
Okay.
And that UFOs are just plasma. Yeah.
No.
Just SNL and Urkel. Put it in YouTube. You'll thank me.
Sleep in a bed of lies.
So plasma is one of the 4 fundamental states of matter. Its use in aerial military applications is also the cause for many of the mystery ball of light and luminous orb type UFO sightings over the last several years, according to this article. Recent technology declassification, a startling admission by a world-renowned plasma physicist, says this. And this author's own ability, not me, but the guy who wrote this, or gal, whoever wrote this, to now recount personal knowledge of the subject helps to support this. Well, I'm glad the author just jumped in and said, I'm an expert too. Many of these glowing cigar, saucer, or globe-shaped lights are engineered by man, and they are often mistaken for extraterrestrial UFOs. Boy, they are on their high horse on this, aren't they?
They really are.
It's just, I know. Huh. Let's see how far we have to go into this here. We'll just give you the highlights of this here article. They're saying that there are 4 different types of plasma that contribute to the UFO process here. Plasma stealth is a process using ionized gas or plasma to reduce the radar cross-section, or the RCS, of an aircraft. Interactions between electromagnetic radiation and ionized gas have been extensively studied to conceal aircraft from radar as stealth technology. Various methods have been developed to form a layer or cloud of plasma around a vehicle to deflect or absorb radar. The effect creates a shimmering or fuzzy light glow, which can be shaped. A little seen video clip of a plasma stealth jet, is shown later in the article, but we're just going to give you the highlights. Electrically charged plasma fields are being used to improve aircraft performance by generating lift in place of mechanical wing flaps and slats. They're saying that is contributing to you thinking you're seeing a UFO, hence the lift. Artificial plasma density clouds, or plasma clouds, not clowns. I know it sounds like I said clowns, but plasma clowns would be really great at a circus. They'd also scare the hell out of your kids.
I was going to say, they'd be terrifying.
They would be, yeah. Plasma clouds can suspend or traverse in midair for up to an hour. They're used as artificial mirrors at altitudes of 50 kilometers below the natural ionosphere. There we go. For the reflection of high-frequency radar and communication signals, U.S. Naval Research Laboratory physicists and engineers from the Plasma Physics Division working at frequency transmitter facilities such as the one located in Gacona, Alaska, have successfully produced sustained high-density plasma clouds in the Earth's atmosphere. Work on artificial plasma clouds is highly classified as it relates to radar and communication systems technologies to which enemy forces must not be privy. Now that I've said that, the government can come after me. Just saying.
I have nothing to do with anything you're saying. I'm innocent.
That's right. I drugged Jessica into this conversation. And plasma can also reduce drag, as in, somebody wearing somebody else's clothes. No, I'm kidding. Drag is the aerodynamic force that opposes an aircraft's motion through the air. A plasma charge on the leading edge of a wing reduces the drag on the vehicle it surrounds. A DARPA, or Defense Advanced Research Project Agency sketch approved for public release showing plasma edges looks kind of cool when I look at it, but you can't see a damn thing. The generation and projection of engineered plasma as an unmanned aerial object Tactically, these objects can divert the attention of enemy forces, causing confusion in enemy maneuvers and expend enemy resources. They can also make our forces appear larger and more advanced than they actually are in a given theater of war. Plasma lasers are military lasers, like I did that, which create glowing plasma decoys against enemy forces, and such plasma systems can create mid-air images to fool infrared and other sensors. In other words, plasmas is UFOs, y'all. Just
it's
saying.
all an illusion.
It's an illusion. That's for sure. With that, Jess, let's take a break. When we come back, we got more ghosty stuff to talk about than this UFO stuff. We're going to go from illusions to real life ghosty stuff. And we're going to talk about a family that discovered in the middle of a funeral that the casket for a loved one had the wrong body.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the creepiest, strangest things that people have seen their cats do because, you know, cats is weird. I don't know. I figured I'd throw that controversy back into the... We haven't done that in the longest time either. We'll talk about Cambridgeshire's haunted crossing of death. Jess has a haunted doll story. I know you guys have been waiting for that. And much, much more. We'll do that when we come back right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio on a Wednesday. It's Supernatural News with special guest Jessica Freeburg. Hi, Jess.
Hello, hello.
We've got plenty in store for you in the second half of the program, which we're happy to bring to you this morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this podcast. Doesn't necessarily have to be evening anymore. I had one listener who said, listen to you at work all the time. Easy on the swears. I had my supervisor, which we will go easy on the swears, had my supervisor and the entire floor look at me really funny when quite a few months ago, there was an abundance of swearing.
Oh, no.
Can't say who did it, but there was an abundance.
It wasn't me.
Wasn't me either.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, I know.
I'm innocent.
You're innocent. We swear we won't. We swear we won't swear. So there you go. Jess, you have a haunted doll story.
Oh, you know I love creepy dolls.
Mm-hmm.
They're my favorite. My mom actually brought home a bunch of creepy dolls that she got from her grandmother's house that were her dolls when she was a kid. And this started off a whole conversation where, you know, I told her, you know, those are haunted. They're going to come, you know, scratch you while you're sleeping at night. And she actually has them kept in a plastic bag downstairs in a closet, which I said is only making them angry. But
oh, no.
I digress. So I saw this story and I thought, oh, I love this. My mom and I were just talking about creepy dolls. This comes to us from across the pond in the UK. A haunted doll that weeps and sets itself on fire appears on This Morning, one of their morning shows over there. Mid-morning presenters Holly Willoughby and Allison Hammond have been freaked out by a terrifying cursed doll that is said to cry acid and set itself on fire. According to the doll's owner, Annie likes nothing more than scratching people, pinching them, and pulling their hair. She's also been blamed for starting fires and even cries tears of acid. Holly was joined on the morning show by Alice, who was standing in for one of the regular hosts. They were joined in the famous studio by the doll's owner, a supernatural video creator who goes by the name Matt Paranormal. I don't think that's his given name.
No, not on his birth certificate at all. Not at all.
Okay, maybe not. Otherwise, his mom is really cool. The hosts were already freaked out at the start of the segment when Holly told viewers, the doll has started actually crying tears of acid. We're not even joking. It actually has. The creepy-looking doll called Annie that Matt bought at an auction in 2019 was on display next to Allison in a glass case. Allison said, for our own safety, we're not actually joking about this. Annie has been sealed in a box and kept at a distance, but I feel quite close to it. Matt, who trained for 3 years as a paranormal investigator after being inspired by the long-running British ghost hunting show Most Haunted, told the curious host about the sinister-looking doll. He said, Annie is from Pennsylvania, and he proceeds to tell Holly and Allison that not one, but 2 spirits have attached themselves to the doll. It sounds crazy, but Matt assures the presenters that it's absolutely safe. He explains the 2 attachments she has were her owners. And he said the owners died in the house fire that the doll was found in. I mean, it sounds perfectly harmless.
Oh, sure.
You've got a doll that sets herself on fire. Her owners died in a house fire. I mean, there's nothing remotely terrifying about that.
No, not at all. Not at all.
He didn't go into detail about who the owners were, but the doll doesn't look like a child's toy. It looks more like a novelty Halloween decoration with fake blood on her clothing, possessed-looking yellow eyes, and cuts on her face. Now, he goes on and proceeds to tell the host about the different devices that he's actually put into this doll. So he bought this doll. It was already creepy, apparently possessed by its previously deceased owners who died in a fire. And he went ahead and put like K2 meters inside of it and an REM sensor that's built in. So this doll is now decked out to be like kind of the ultimate ghost hunting tool.
Weird.
That's a hard pass for me. I'm not taking that one with me to the Palmer house this weekend.
So, okay, so you put K2 meters and a REM pod inside of it, yet it's haunted. So wouldn't it give its own false positive?
I would think so. I don't know. There's a lot about this doll that leaves you questioning Matt and his processes of paranormal investigation, but it is pretty fascinating. It's super creepy. And I don't know, I kind of love her. She's in a glass box, and he does say that the spirits inside of the doll have no interest in leaving her. That's why he hasn't sent them on, because the hosts were like, well, why don't you just get the spirits out of there? And he said, well, they kind of like it in there. They've got their doll. They're happy. But then he goes on to tell them that if they open the glass box, the spirits could escape and attach themselves to anyone in the building or anything in the building, including the tree out back, I think he even said. So
the tree out back.
Yeah, I don't need a possessed tree. They had one of those in that movie Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was terrifying. Almost as scary as the clown at the foot of the bed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. It's a creepy doll. It does appear to be crying. There's a video of it on the link that I have here. But I don't know. Is it truly haunted? Is our friend making it more haunted than it actually is? I can't say. I'd have to sit in a room with it by myself, preferably a dark room.
Oh yeah. I would question Matt's theories as well. To let it out of a glass case only to jump into a tree. Why
possess the tree? What did the tree ever do to anyone?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and only to be stuck into a tree for eternity. I would think not a good choice. Yeah. That's just not a good choice. Not a good choice.
Yeah, but apparently Matt has a haunted museum that people can visit if you're ever over in the UK and you want to visit Matt. He looks like an interesting fellow. His doll is pretty creepy. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 on the creepy scale.
That's good. That's a good place to be. I would not want to go to his museum. I wouldn't want any of his ghosts to jump into my shoe. Yeah. Because you never know. It could happen.
You don't want to possess shoe. That's just all kinds of problems right there.
Yeah. Especially my Crow Walker boot, which I've paid a lot of money for to support my Charcot foot. I get a ghost in there, and all of a sudden my leg might take off on me. And I wouldn't want that.
And you know they're going to go for the expensive one. If I was a ghost, I'd go for the expensive boot.
Well, it's like a $2,000 boot. I mean,
what?
Yeah.
That's like a Rolls Royce of a boot.
It is. And it looks like a big old plastic Frankenstein boot that's been shot with a shotgun, because there's lots of little holes in it to give me ventilation. Because it's really
Does it have like places to put things? Does it have like a place to stick a K2 meter if you're ghost hunting or anything like that?
No. You would think it would have like little jets on it, like an Iron Man boot. I mean, for $2,000, I should be able to
fashion some things to add to that boot for you.
If you could, I'd like it bedazzled too.
I can do that. I've got daughters. We can bedazzle it for you.
I'd like that.
And then we'll give you a creepy doll to go with your bedazzled boot.
That would
I have
awesome.
extra. My mom has a whole bag full of them in her closet in the basement.
Nice. A bedazzled Charcot boot. I can't wait. I'm sure the ortho guy will just absolutely crap himself.
He'll love it.
Yeah. Let's move on to California, shall we? We teased it before the break. I can't ever remember an instance of this happening in our family, but a California family discovered in the middle of a funeral that the casket for a loved one had the wrong body in it.
I think you get your money's back. Your money's back.
Your human money's back.
All your monies, not just the one monies, all of them.
Yeah, you should. You should. That's where a good place to start. That's like a good benchmark. The Fresno Bee reported this past weekend that a California family is suing a funeral home for placing the wrong body in the casket of their loved one. Boy, how would you like to open that up and say goodbye to grandma and there's somebody else? Hello.
Not the surprise you were looking for.
No. The Lee family learned that the casket they thought contained their beloved grandmother had actually contained the wrong body. The Lee family now fears that their grandmother will not make it to her final resting place. I hate to be callous here, but couldn't they just bring it back to the back room, do the whole switcheroo, and bring her back out?
I was going to say, did they then not find the grandmother? Are they still looking for her?
Oh, let's see. It says here the grandchildren of the late Cher Lee of Fresno, California, said the family experienced emotional trauma and is now suing the funeral home. In place of Lee, who died on September 23rd, 2021, was a deceased member of an entirely different family. In the middle of the funeral, however, to the extreme shock and surprise of all in attendance, the Lee family opened the casket to discover the wrong body. The family sent a lawsuit filed this past week. The funeral home had dressed Cher Lee in the Kang family member's ceremonial funeral clothes and was now in the open casket in place of the departed Kang family member. Because of the mix-up, the Lee family now worries that their beloved grandmother will not make it to her final resting place. Oh, metaphysically.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Took me a minute.
Yeah.
I'm there now.
Right. Me too. The afterlife and its preparation is of extreme significance for both the living and departed. Indeed, many Hmong believe that when the body is mishandled and the funeral song sung, the deceased relative not only fails to make their journey to the afterlife, but the deceased stays lost between this life and the next and curses the surviving family members. That according to the lawsuit. Ooh, geez. Fresno Funeral Chapel, which oversaw the services, did not immediately respond to the insider's request for comment, but on Friday, the funeral home admitted to and took responsibility for the mistake, saying it didn't do enough to prevent the mix-up from happening. It was our mistake for putting the wrong body out, Stephen Smith, the chapel's funeral director, told the outlet. We should have double-checked. Really?
Double, triple, quadruple check.
Yeah. And discount double-checked at that. I pray it doesn't happen again, he added. Well, you should probably do more than pray. You should probably actually do it. We head back over to the UK where a mystery still surrounds Cambridgeshire's haunted crossing of death. A railway crossing in England has gained something of a haunted reputation over the years. Situated near Peterborough, the Connington Crossing, which at a glance looks like any ordinary level crossing, has long been the focus of chilling ghost stories and sinister urban legends, said to be haunted by the ghost of a colonel and his dog who were killed there in the 1940s. The crossing has been the site of a number of unfortunate accidents, in particular during the first half of the 20th century, during which it had become so notorious that locals had feared to cross it. One notable accident, which took place there in the 1940s, involved a truck full of German prisoners, which was struck by lightning at the crossing, resulting in 6 deaths.
What?
Yeah. The accident involving the famous colonel saw his car struck by a train while crossing the line. He and his faithful dog were reportedly buried near to the scene, spawning a plethora of ghost sightings.
A dog died too? Not the dog.
Yeah, the dog too. There have also been stories of the crossing's barriers opening and closing, seemingly for no reason, as well as sightings of a phantom car which drives across and vanishes into thin air. While the crossing received automation upgrades during the 1970s, it remains a popular destination for paranormal investigators and researchers even to this day.
I'm going to say if your vehicle gets struck by lightning and 6 people die in it at that particular crossing, there's a solid chance it's cursed.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that one. Not at all. Not at all. Speaking of rail excavations and railroads and bad juju, we stay in England where decapitated skeletons of Roman criminals were found during an England rail excavation. There's just all kinds of gruesome, grisly stuff happening there over in England, isn't there?
I kind of love it. I just kind of want to go there and vacation, maybe move in.
Find you some
Not
Romans.
With the decapitated things.
I was going to say, find you some Roman skeletons. Yeah, why not? About 40 decapitated skeletons unearthed by a group of archaeologists in southern England are thought to be belong to criminals from the Roman period. The skeletons were found when archaeologists on England's High-Speed 2 program discovered a late Roman cemetery thought to be the biggest of its kind in Buckinghamshire, which I believe I haven't said properly in my Irish accent. I don't know where that came from. A team of 50 archaeologists had been working the site for more than a year, where they also found sections of a Roman town in the local village of Fleet Marston, alongside more than 1,200 coins and gaming dice, bells, spoons, pins, and brooches. The resident settlement was also likely used as a stopping place for soldiers and passerby traveling through Fleet Marston en route to the Roman town of Alchester. The cemetery contains about 425 burials in total, the rail company said in a statement. The number of burials, as well as the settlement itself, implied that a large number of people arrived at the town between the mid and late Roman period, potentially as a result of inflated agricultural production. One explanation for the use of a decapitation as a burial practice could be that the skeletons were once criminals or a type of outcast. Although such a process was a standard during the late Roman period, according to the statement. That was standard?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean,
what else are you going to do?
They're dirty Romans. Take their heads off.
This actually makes me think of, I was listening to a podcast a while back and they were talking about Diego Alves, who was a Portuguese serial killer from the 1800s, whose head, after he was decapitated, was kept in a jar. And it's still in a jar, like almost 200 years later, they still, and if you Google it, if you Google Diego Alves, you will see a picture of this head in a jar, and it's so incredibly well preserved. But, you know, that's what they did back in the day, you know?
Seriously?
They chopped their heads off. They didn't typically preserve them in a jar. I think they were wanting to do some sort of research on his brain to try to figure out why he was so evil, because he was like one of the most prolific serial killers of the time. And there was a time period in the early 1800s where they were really all about trying to figure out the brain anatomy and why did people do terrible things. But yeah, it's still in a freaking jar. And it looks like I'm looking at it on the screen above the screen of you, and you guys, it's basically like the same thing. I mean, it's so well preserved. It's not that you look like a dead head in a jar.
Not that I look like a pickled Roman in a jar.
But it's so well preserved. It's creepy. His eyes are open. He has his little mustache and his little beard on. I mean, very similar, actually. You guys have the same facial hair going on.
Oh, God.
Google it, though.
I don't want to scare myself before the end of the program. I look like a pickled Roman in a jar.
You guys aren't twins, but...
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
A complete...
I took us off the rails.
No. That's very interesting. It actually has to kind of do with the next part of the story. A complete Roman pot was uncovered during the dig. No heads were found in it, however, and no pickling substances. The cemetery mostly housed entombed burials because I'm still thinking of the head in the jar.
Sorry.
Because inhumation was common at the time. But there were also some cremation burials. The excavation significant in both enabling a clear characterization of this Roman town, but also a study of many of its inhabitants, said Richard Brown, a senior project manager at Copa JV, a consortium of archaeologists working on behalf of the project, along with several new... jumped off the story there. Along with several new Roman settlement sites discovered during the HS2 works. It enhances and populates the map of Roman Buckinghamshire. Archaeologists at the HS2 excavation site program have uncovered a trove of discoveries in Buckinghamshire in recent months, including a set of rare Roman statues and a wooden figure thought to be 2,000 years old, although no heads in a jar, shockingly. Just saying, yeah. Wow, head in a jar.
Yeah, wild, huh?
Yeah.
But they found all the bodies but never found the heads. Now that's fascinating to me as well, because somewhere there have to be some heads laying around.
There's some heads in a jar somewhere. I'll tell you that much. Do you have any cats there at the house?
So I'm allergic to cats. I am a cat lover, but they make me sneeze.
Yeah, they make me break out. And I should explain to people, you know, for years on the show, we had this deal where people thought I hated cats. I don't hate cats. I have a healthy respect for them, knowing that they want to take our heads off. And you can't, as a cat lover, convince me that they're friendly like dogs. They're friendly like, I depend on you, human, to feed me.
Sometimes there are some cats who are more dog-like. I've got friends who've got cats and we actually have a dog who I joke is a cat because she just really thinks she rules the world, and she's small and she's always like up on your shoulders and sticking her butt in your face like a cat.
Yep. And my sister had a cat who thought it was a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the coolest cat ever. Because it would, you could call it from the other room and it would come running and look for a treat.
Cat.
Yeah, which was the coolest thing ever. But there's a story out there that is out on Vice.com that actually just is talking about the strangest, creepiest things people have seen their cats do. I'm just trying to see if I can hit the highlights here. There's one story here that... oh God, this is just weird. This woman says he mauled and killed a pigeon that day and ripped out its entrails as if to tell me, if you can't give me my food on time, I'll feed myself. Sweet little kitty. This woman says, I have two cats, one black called Voodoo and a ginger Cheeto. Both are adopted, considering that black cats are considered inauspicious in India. My neighbors are not the happiest when I got him home, but it is Cheeto who actually has an evil, even murderous streak. He demands to be fed ritually every morning at 7. In Delhi's harsh winters, it's sometimes difficult to get up early. The first time I didn't wake up on time, he made it abundantly clear that this was not going to fly. He mauled and killed a pigeon that day and ripped out its entrails as if to tell me, if you can't give me my food on time, I'll feed myself. She says, this happened to me almost 4 times over the last few years. I still don't know how he manages to find those poor pigeons to kill, but this much is clear. If I don't feed my cat at 7 a.m., there will be a dead mauled pigeon waiting for me on the terrace.
Oh my gosh. I've just got this visual of a cat, not just killing this poor bird, but doing it and glaring into the eyes of its owner, like, feed me now, right? Like that's an evil cat right there.
Yeah. Another one in the my kitty's not a cute little furball category leads off with this headline. The cats had managed to push the heater to a spot right under the aquarium. The fish were burnt to a crisp.
No.
Yes.
No.
This one says, I live alone with my 12 cats during winters, Jammu in northern India. Why are there all these cats in India? Something about, and we have listeners in India.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'd like to know our listeners in India if they can write us an email, tim@darknessradio.com. Tell us, why are these cats evil in India? during winters, Jammu becomes unbearably cold. On one such particularly freezing day, I decided to keep them locked in a room with a heater nearby because a hot air blower wasn't going to cut it. I'm a university professor, so I usually have no option but to lock them in the house when I'm away. When I came home in the evening, I had the shock of my life. I still don't know how, but the cats had somehow managed to push the heater to a spot right under my home aquarium, which was now up in flames. The plastic and styrofoam sheets under it had caught fire.
Oh, man.
It was almost like the fish were getting roasted in a large utensil on an oven.
Oh, no.
Some of them were expensive fish, and all of them were nearly burnt to a crisp. And the cats, well, all of them looked at me as if nothing had happened. Of course they did. The evening set on their stoic, indifferent faces.
Oh, no.
On top of it, are you ready for this, Jess? I also have herpetophobia, which is a fear of reptiles. Maybe my cats know this because why else would they find the creepiest reptiles, bash their skulls in, and hide their little corpses under my pillow?
Oh, no. I am never getting a cat. I'm so glad I'm allergic.
I sleep on a double bed, and all 12 of them sleep around me. Some days I'll find a dead chameleon with its head bashed in, or a squirrel's entrails all ripped out on my blood-splattered sheet.
Oh, just dying. It's just so gross.
This is
the worst thing my dogs do is lick their butts. Like, there's never anything dead and bloody. There's never critters under my pillows. Oh.
This okay, so I've given you probably the worst of the worst, because this to me is mundane compared to the other stuff. A lady writes, my other cat has a weird thing for bras till he was 2. He'd walk into a room full of guests with a bra in his mouth, dragging it across the floor, which is nothing compared to roasting my fish and throwing reptiles in my bed.
Or ripping out the guts of the bird in front of you to show you that you've missed its feeding time.
Okay, until I read further into the story.
Oh, it gets worse, huh? Okay, let's hear it.
It does. This is a creeper cat. My cat came as a kitten, a beautiful white Persian who needed a home, but she believed she was the daughter of my very old Cocker Spaniel, who was himself in love with my golden retriever. She hits and slaps everyone except the 3 dogs. She also sexually harasses the retriever, ogling at her longingly, following her everywhere. What is wonderful is that all the dogs love her and she loves them. Well, that's nice. However, and this is the big however in the story, I also believe she has a toxic relationship with my mother.
Oh, no.
This is just getting sick. She will quite literally slap my mom each and every time they are physically together, but she gets super depressed when my mom isn't home. We can't get her neutered because she won't let anyone touch her for post-op care. We have all her wounds. We all have wounds on our bodies. When guests come home, she will welcome them in peace, and once they have settled in comfortably, proceed to slap them too, should they try to touch her. Nice cat.
This cat has some anger issues.
Right? She says, my other cat has a weird thing for bras. Until he was 2, he'd walk into a room full of guests with a bra in his mouth, dragging it across the floor. He has always been strange that way. Every midnight, he stands in a specific corner of the house, lets out a painful, super loud howl. This is some hereditary craziness because his father would do the same. And again, in Delhi.
Huh. Interesting. They all are from India.
Yeah, the cats in India are weird. I think I can skip that one. That one isn't as bizarre. Yeah, but all of these cats are from India. Weird. Okay, so those are the weirdest of the stories having to do with cats. And evidently it's just in India. So I don't have American cats to pick on.
We don't have to worry about it then, right? I can go get a cat.
No.
Oh, right. I'm allergic. That's why.
It might have come from an Indian cat farm. You never know. And you're allergic. There's that. Yeah. So, I'd stay far away. Stay far away, Jess. Just promise.
I did used to sneak a cat into our house when I was a kid, and I had such bad allergies that my eyes would like swell up and they'd be weeping, and red, and you could just immediately tell. And I'd sneak that cat in, and my dad would walk in. I'd sneak it out the back door before he got inside, and he'd be like, "You had that cat in here again." And I'd be all sniffling. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I wanted to love the cat.
Well, I tried to, in all fairness, I tried to bring one home too, and that's how I found out I was allergic. I tried to bring a cat home, and on top of my parents saying, "Oh hell no, you're not bringing a cat home. We already have a dog." I also, all of a sudden, tears were flowing, my eyes swelled up, and yeah, see, people, I do love cats. I try to bring
There's a love
home.
inside you for the cats. I thought maybe because you're allergic originally, I thought, well, maybe we can just get one of those hairless cats. Those are creepy looking, but they're kind of awesome too.
I like those cats.
Yes,
Yeah.
I really wanted one. I think Rachel had one on Friends. Do you remember that? And it was really mean. But it turns out you're not allergic to the fur. You're allergic to the dander, which is their skin. So
yeah, it's
can't have a creepy hairless cat either.
Kind of the same thing. Just a few more stories in supernatural news today. Mysterious aircraft was spotted at Area 51 in an unprecedented satellite image. The reason why this hasn't blown the doors wide open, literally because the doors aren't wide open. It's like a little barn. I'm not going to go too far into it, but it was reported on a site called thedrive.com, and I don't know that it's all that reputable, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But it's the area known as Area 51. It was sighted at the Air Force's clandestine flight test center, and it's just it looks like a pole barn with a little. Honestly, when I look at it, it looks like an SR-71 Blackbird.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like an existing plane underneath. So I figured I'd report it, but it looks like the same old. We reported a few weeks ago here, Jess, about Havana syndrome. We had a show on Havana syndrome with Frank Milburn, and then mysteriously there was a story in the news where the CIA came out and said, no, Havana syndrome doesn't happen when Russia floods you with RF energy or any other type of energy.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird story that came out just a few days after we had Frank on the show. Frank saying that he has documents that state that Russia is behind Havana syndrome. Now, a panel has come out this past week saying that some Havana syndrome cases may stem from, radio energy, just like Frank said, RF energy. A group of experts found that not all injuries to diplomats and CIA officers could be explained by stress or psychosomatic reactions, like the CIA claimed. A panel of experts assembled by the Biden administration concluded on Wednesday that stress or psychosomatic reactions could not explain some of the incidents of Havana syndrome that they had reviewed, and said that radio waves could have caused some of the injuries among CIA officers and diplomats. When we had Frank on the show, he said the way that Russia gets to some of these diplomats, and now, scary enough, some of our space scientists, is to flood their routers and their cell phones with RF energy.
Oh, wow. That is scary.
Yeah. The panel, which included both government scientists and outside experts, did not try to determine who was responsible for the incidents, and officials said the conclusions did not contradict interim findings by the CIA that unexplained incidents were not the result of a sustained global campaign by Russia or another adversary, but there are tensions between the panel's work and the CIA's conclusions. The panel's findings could bolster the arguments of victims and lawmakers who believe a hostile foreign nation could have caused at least some of the injuries associated with Havana syndrome, perhaps by using a listening device. The panel's conclusions also undercut the arguments of some outside experts that mass hysteria, stress, or psychosomatic reactions were the cause of the incident. The panel found that stress reactions could have contributed to ongoing symptoms, but that no so-called functional illness or mass hysteria could explain the initial injuries in the cases that were the focus of the investigation. So just kind of an interesting follow-up to Havana syndrome there. We've got 3 animal stories to end it today.
Wonderful.
Well, I don't know.
Do they involve ripping entrails out of things?
A little bit.
Oh, no.
Well, the first one, a little bit. It has to do with a graveyard again. I'm sorry, Jess. I brought you in on kind of a grody day. I'll tell you that. Grody. I haven't used that one in a long time.
Grody. Oh my gosh. I just went back in time. I'm in 5th grade. My hair is in a ponytail. It's high and I'm saying grody.
There you go. Amazing find, it says here. A mysterious headless horse skeleton was discovered in a medieval graveyard in Germany alongside the remains of its rider.
And more missing heads.
More missing heads.
There's definitely a theme.
Yep, that's a theme today. We could call it the Headless Podcast.
Ooh, I like it.
The Headless Podcast edition. The mysterious skeleton of a headless horse has been found buried alongside its rider in a medieval graveyard in the southern German town of Nittlingen. Nittlingen. Yeah, that's how you'd pronounce it. According to archaeologists from the Stuttgart Regional Council's State Office for Monument Preservation in BW, that must be one of those new Volkswagens, the BW. I don't know. The remains date back some 1,400 years. At this time, the area was ruled by the Merovingian dynasty, a Frankish family whose reign from 450 to 751 AD united much of what is now France and Central Europe. The experts are uncertain why the horse was decapitated, but think that this treatment was likely part of the man's burial ceremony, with the steed's body a grave good. I don't know what that means.
Huh. I'm just thinking maybe they needed that head for the Godfather. Didn't they put the horse head in the bed?
They did eventually, yeah.
Now we know where it came from. The mystery has been solved.
Yeah, 3,000 years later, they put it in the,
It must have been preserved in a jar.
Exactly. They put it in the biggest mason jar they could find. Good call, Jess. Among the other belongings were a straight and double-edged sword known as a spatha and a lance. I think it's a spatha or spatha. The location of the horse's head, meanwhile, remains unknown, otherwise known as the unknown horseman's head thingy. I don't know. I lost the joke there. The excavations at the site were led by archaeologist Folk Daminger and of the Stuttgart Regional Council's State Office for Monument Preservation. The medieval cemetery is a little west of the center of Nittlingen. There we go. Was first uncovered in 1920 during construction works for an ultimately aborted narrow gauge railway line. What is it with the railway line? I think maybe I
don't know.
Maybe we call it the Headless Podcast near the railway line edition. I don't know. As the expert explained, the man found buried alongside his horse was likely in the service of the Merovingian dynasty. He stood in a chain of command with the Merovingian kings on its top, which meant he was obliged to participate in the king's campaigns, according to Dr. Daminger. As a member of the local elite, he most probably was the head of a farming household consisting of his family and his servants. What if this guy just got too close to a scythe?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've really made a great story for him, though.
He has got a hell of a background, doesn't he?
And where are all these heads? I just keep thinking there's decapitated bodies found in one place and a decapitated horse over here.
Someone's just going to run into a mass grave full of heads.
It's going to be a big hill full of heads.
Exactly. A hill of heads. That is somebody's greatest royal title ever, the Hill of Heads.
The Hill of Heads.
Right. Dr. Daminger also said that the man's elaborate burial with his steed would have been likely arranged by his family to reaffirm his and their social standing. We are the Royal Earl of No Head. That didn't sound right either. One function of this ceremony was the staging of the deceased in his former status and wealth, as a man was not the only individual from this period whose remains the researcher have unearthed from the site of the cemetery. In fact, the team reported that they have examined 110 graves in total, some of which were simple burials, while other employed wooden coffins and a more elaborate timbered burial chambers. Many of the men, they said, were buried alongside weapons, including arrowheads, lances, shields, and swords. while others were interred with luxury items, like one woman who was found alongside a gold brooch. Other graves' goods included jewelry such as amulets, arm rings, belt hangers, earrings, pearl necklaces, and robe clasps, along with, I had to say that right, not clasps, along with bronze bowls, cones, knives, and ceramic vessels that analysis has indicated once contained food for the dead. Despite their fragmentation as a result of ancient robberies, the finds provide indications of the social position of the dead. Most of the graves were found to be laid out in regular rows, while members of the local elite were buried out of sequence within a circular ditch. I think that's enough of that. Don't you?
I enjoyed every second of it.
Did you?
I did.
I mean, there's more if you want more.
I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, though, I've been watching a lot of this show called Exhumed, and it's all about cold cases that are solved by exhuming the bodies of the murder victims. And every time they pull the casket out, it's full of water. And I've come to one very strong conclusion. I just want to be made into ashes. I don't want to become soup. That's my thing. I just don't want to become soup.
Jessica Soup.
So that's what I've been thinking about basically the whole time you've been telling this story.
Wow. Them some dark thoughts there, lady. I just don't want to be soup. You know, now you got me thinking. I was thinking that, when Jeff Mudgett was doing the Bloodlines show.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they were looking for H.H. Holmes. And they went down deep, and it was all watery, and there were bones down there, and it was soup.
It was soup. I don't want to be soup. That's disgusting.
There's a nice thought. All right, let's not end it on that. I mean, this is a pretty long article. Let's go from soup to worms. You wanna?
Oh man.
We're just ending it on a nice note today. There's a palate cleanser at the end of all this. I swear there is, folks.
Okay, phew.
Yeah. Bizarre worm with one head and countless bodies was found in an astonishing discovery. A strange new species of worm, which will be down in that soup, I'm sure, with one head and multiple branching bodies has been discovered by researchers in Japan. The confirmation of a new species of worm was announced by researchers led by, I ran out of air there, led by Professor Maria Teresa Aguado from the University of Göttingen in Germany. Aguado was sent images of the strange worm by researchers in Japan and organized a field trip, of course, to examine and later confirm their findings. The worms were found off Sato Island in Japan, living inside host sponges in the seas surrounding the island. Those poor sponges. They were found to be a form of psyllid marine worm. Until now, only 2 others of this kind were known to exist. The new species has been named Ramicillus kingidorahi.
Close enough.
Yeah, Kingidorahi, after Japanese legend Godzilla's monster enemy Kingidorahi, I believe it is, a kaiju that can regenerate lost body parts. I'm not that deep into Godzilla that I can nail that in the first one. But I'm just
pretending like you said it right the first time.
Oh, thanks. Well, I
You're
try.
welcome.
And finally, Jess, I was kind of thinking Bruiser would be here for this one, but now I'm going to torture you even more on the way out.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Lay it on me.
All right. Fish, like birds, have voices, and they do make a lot of noise. Think about that the next time you're out fishing. And when you hook one and you got one on the line and it goes, "Help me! Help me!"
Oh no.
Yeah.
I don't fish.
Well, that's probably good.
I'm not killing Nemo.
Statement criticizing Florida legislation that would restrict classroom discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity.
What the heck is that?
What is happening?
Weigh in on state level legislation.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
What does that have to do with fish?
I don't know, but evidently the fish are giving a report. And it has to do with sexual orientation.
You are haunted over there, I'm telling you.
I guess. That is weird. I know and now the story has disappeared too. That's bizarre.
Oh no.
Nemo did not want to get caught, evidently. Let's try it again. You might not have heard them do it, but fish are capable of making all manners of croaks, chirps, and other sounds. Watching fish swim around in water tends to be a calming, serene experience, at least for you and me, but with the only audible sound being a few gentle splashes and the movements of the water's surface. With the correct audio equipment, however, it is possible to open up a world of hidden sounds, a cacophony of mysterious underwater voices communicating with one another through the depths. For the longest time, it was thought that such acoustic communication in fish was rare, but now researchers have found that it is, in fact, extremely commonplace. They've probably been overlooked because fishes are not easily heard or seen, but the science of underwater acoustic communication is primarily focused on whales and dolphins, said Andrew Bass. How unusual that his last name is Bass, and he's studying fish. An evolutionary neuroscientist at Cornell University, but fishes have voices too, damn it, he says. To learn more, researchers investigated the ray-finned group of fishes to determine various physiological features to enable them to make sounds. They can grind their teeth. It's TMJ amongst fishes, by the way, Jess.
They just need a mouth guard when they go to sleep at night.
Oh, wouldn't that be cute to make the teeniest little mouth guard for them ever? Or make movement noise in the water. And we do see a number of specializations that are involved, said Cornell's Aaron Rice. Probably the most common adaptation are muscles associated with swim bladders. In fact, the swim bladder muscles of the toadfish are the fastest contracting vertebrate skeletal muscles. These are high-performing adaptations. There is, believe it or not, if I can turn this up without having something go off here, I think we can actually play the recording of fish sounds.
Ooh.
I have to hold it up to my mic, though. This is very amateur hour, but let me see if I can get a representation of a fish sound. It has a beat.
Yeah, it's kind of like beatboxing.
Yeah. Yeah, get it, little fish. Get it, little fish. Get it, little fish. It's kind of like burn, 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 burn. It's like jock rock.
Totally. That's funny, though. Before you said that, I was thinking it sounds like when I feed my kids chili, and then they're like, wasn't me, it was the dog.
It's like, it wasn't me, Mom. Look at Buster. It totally was jock rock. We're like, burn, 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 burn.
You have a beat to it.
Burn, 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 burn. I'm trying to see if I can.
That fish is going to be a star.
That is, right? That fish may be like the new Dougie Fresh of the aquatic
Super
world.
Bowl halftime in his future, I think.
Yeah. See if I can bring him up again real quick here. I think so that our entire audience really gets the gist of what we're jiving to here. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to bring him back up again. I'm going to bring up little Dougie Fish. That's what I'm going to call him. Dougie Fish. You ready for this? I'll be like, y'all ready for this? Then he goes like this. He lost a little rhythm at the end there, but I mean, he wasn't bad.
It kind of felt like I was clubbing. I mean, we were both rocking a little bit. There was some dancing going on.
Dun, 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 dun. It did sound like some bass beats, didn't it?
I liked it.
Boom, 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 boom.
Fish's got skill.
He does, doesn't he? That's deeper than any beatbox I've ever heard. So Jess, tell everybody one more time where they can go get your books.
Well, you can go to my website, jessicafreeburg.com. If you want to see where the books are located on my website, you can find them there. Or you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, put my name in, and the list will pop up. A lot of them are for children. I do want to forewarn, I did get a bad review one time because someone said, this book is more for kids than me. And I was like, it clearly says on there it's for 6th graders. But so just brace yourself if it's a kid's book. But The Piper is middle grade, so that would be good probably for some of our listeners.
Who was the sumbitch who gave you a bad review because they weren't smart enough to realize that it was a kid's book?
It was my favorite review ever.
Really?
It was a 1 star because the book was just too below their level.
Oh my God. If you're at a reading level where you can't tell it's a kid's book, then maybe you do need that book after all.
I'll read it for them. I'll read it to them.
You probably should make it an audiobook for them.
Should.
Make it as easy as you can for them. That's what I'm saying. Oy vey. Well, thank you, Jess. I appreciate you being with us today. It was
so fun. Thank you for having me.
It was truly my pleasure. I do appreciate you being there for us, especially last minute. Again, folks, send your thoughts and prayers out to Beer City Bruiser and his family. A little bit of a family emergency, nothing too serious, but we do appreciate it if you can just keep them in your thoughts as they go through a little bit of an emergency over there, over in Scotty in Wisconsin. But he'll be back with us next week. So, and by the way, we should mention, Bruiser, if things are all right, will be in Elk River, Minnesota this weekend. He'll be wrestling at Elk River.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you're local to the area, you can check out Beer City Bruiser in Elk River. Just go to his social media and you can check out the details there. And we'll have a link in the description of the show so that you can check out where Beer City Bruiser will be, and you can come out and support Beer City Bruiser this weekend in Elk River. Tomorrow on the show, Marco M. Vigato and the Empires of Atlantis, the origins of ancient civilizations and mystery traditions throughout the ages. That's a mouthful. And we'll be talking about why the origins of ancient civilizations and mystery traditions lead up to everything we know today, and why we may have come from Atlantis. That'll all come up tomorrow on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.